In 2012, I had an injury leading into the Olympic trials, and I fell just short of making the team. You have 4 years to think about that moment. This was my year to make the team. And then it all changed.
She's one of the best that I have seen in 43 years of track and field.
She's been outstanding, breaking records the whole way.
My time wasn't right where I wanted it to be, but it was still a good race.
We're looking for her to hopefully see her in the Olympics one day.
I fell into the sport very organically. Like, it was just something I was naturally good at. 2015 was a really good year for me. I was on top of my game, feeling the best I've ever felt as an athlete. And then it literally felt like I fell off a cliff. And my races went from way up here to way down here.
See baby face.
Taking a snooze.
Oh, little more, right?
My husband's my coach, and I remember talking to him, and he was like, we're gonna get some blood work done, figure out what's going on. I have an IUD that's supposed to be 99% effective. Basically, the IUD failed.
Strong heart.
You see baby's ear? Do you see baby's ear?
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, nothing was wrong, you know? We're having a baby.
Oh, she's kicking your ribs.
Yes, hit me in the ribs. A lot of female athletes end up having to choose between starting a family or going after their athletic goals. I don't see why I had to choose. It really just became about, well, do I have enough time to still get ready for the Olympic trials?
The Olympic standard is the minimum time that you have to have run to be allowed to compete in the Olympics. The last 2 races before Sarah became pregnant, she ran the Olympic standard in the 1500. And she didn't run it by a little bit. She broke it by a lot. For her to be as successful as she has been and not be an Olympian is a shame. And it's been some unlucky years, some unlucky injuries at the wrong time. And she's fought back and been very, very close.
Sarah Bowman joins the leaders. Rowberry coming up to challenge Simpson for the second spot. They're approaching the turn for home in the final lap. It's going to be tight for second.
Sarah's contract with her sponsor is up at the end of this year. And if she doesn't make the Olympic team, we don't have a guarantee that there's a paid future in this sport.
Use your other foot as you need.
This is one of her last chances to try and make an Olympic team.
Alright, that toe down.
Depending on whether this baby comes on time, we should have about 12 weeks to prepare for the Olympic trials.
2, 1, good.
To my knowledge, nobody's gotten ready for that level of an event with only 3 months to prepare after giving birth.
Sarah Brown is not your average Olympian, and a lot of people wonder whether running at such speeds is safe at this stage.
Exercise is good for pregnant women. They have to exercise, but not that extreme. That's pretty extreme.
It's maybe a little unrealistic.
I think there's fear that by pushing her body so hard, she might endanger the baby.
People definitely have a lot of opinions about motherhood, and they aren't afraid to try and tell you them. Selfish bitch thinking of herself, not her baby. She's already a whack job. Can't imagine what kind of parent she'll be. Even though, as much as I knew those comments made no sense and they weren't coming from a background of any kind of knowledge, they still kind of got to me a little bit. It's coming from my own fears and my own vulnerability of, am I going to be a good mom?
So your weight's going up, which is great. So we know that you're getting the caloric intake, which is great. Okay. Baby's nice and active, so that's also wonderful. When you're actually working out, check your heart rate periodically. As long as you stayed below 90% of your maximal heart rate, you were fine when you were working out.
I think the most she's ever getting up to is threshold level or lower, which threshold level for an athlete of hers is like 75%.
Okay,
so we're well under that 90%.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
This child's health has been at the forefront of everything we do. They used to tell women just to sit back and put your feet up. Now we know that's not the case. We're getting through training with a lot of guidance from heart rate monitors, and if there's ever a question, we don't do it.
A and C1 and C2. I knew when I took this on that it was going to be hard. It's kind of scary for me. Like, can you really have both worlds and have them to a fulfilling degree?
All we really do is put a sheet on it now. It's gonna be tough, but that's the whole reason I'm so excited that we're having a little girl. It's the type of little girl that isn't afraid to put herself out there and try and fail and come back again and try harder.
People are probably going to look at me like I'm crazy, even thinking that I have a shot. But for me, sitting on the sidelines would be more of a disappointment. I have no idea if you can have it all. And I don't know if I'll make the team, but I owe it to my daughter to try.
When you truly sit down and think about the process of creating life, giving birth across a 9-month span, not only is Sarah doing that, but less than 1% of the world will actually have a shot at becoming an Olympian. And she's doing these things in parallel.
I think one of my biggest uncertainties and fears that I have with becoming a mom is just that growing up I had very selfless parents. When I think about my running career, I've always felt like I've had to be a little bit selfish with my time, selfish with my energy.
Kids.
Like, things happen on kind of my schedule. When you throw a baby into all of that, what's gonna happen? Like, what's that going to look like?
We have a major transition period ahead of us. The birth of a child for a woman's body is it's an impactful transition period.
I think the biggest thing for me is the delivery. And I want to make sure, like, above all else, I want our daughter to come healthy. Emergency C-sections happen, and that could be something that I end up facing. You know, that really could foil my plans in trying to get back in time for the Olympic trials.
Things like the C-section, though, like, don't project
I know
the potential and worry about it now. Like, we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. Because the reality is, if that ends up being the case, that's the case. Right now, the importance is to make sure that her structural system is supported for the body that she's carrying at this moment. One of the most common causes of injury is imbalance. She's actually having to make up for what I call a bowling ball right in front of her stomach, and so it's putting a ton of extra torque on her back. We got to come out of this healthy. She's got to be physically healthy, the baby's got to be healthy, and we have to be ready to work when it counts. Of course, you're the one doing all the heavy lifting.
I don't even think that any of this would be possible if it wasn't my husband coaching me. He's an accomplished runner himself.
Darren Brown, running for a sub-4 minute mile the first time.
Darren and his dad are actually the first father-son duo to have broken the 4-minute mile barrier.
Darren Brown, 3:59! The first father-son duo! First father-son.
He gave up his own running career to focus on my training.
All right, we'll slow up a little bit. Just kind of get your composure.
I've told him many times, like, if he didn't want to coach me, I wouldn't keep running. That's how much I consider this a group and team effort. Like, that if I make this team, Darren's made this team. I'm not just running for myself anymore.
Sarah's here in labor. She's actually being induced. When people have their bag of water broken, they're actually more at a risk for actually developing infection. And we obviously don't want that to happen to her or to the baby.
It hit me pretty hard when our doctor said, like, we're going to induce you. Like, you are going to have a baby here in the next couple hours, days, however long it takes. I kind of had a surreal moment of like, holy cow, this is happening.
I think Darren and I both got a little bit emotional when we found out, because you're finding out like you're going to meet your daughter.
Just want them to get a little bit strong. Take it down to that.
We had a little bit of a scare just because the fever that initially caused us to come in this morning just wasn't really breaking, and unless the baby's heart rate comes down, they don't want to risk leaving it too high, and so they'd want to usher her through to have a cesarean section instead. People say you'll never forget this moment, and I'm realizing why. Like, this is intense.
She needed to be delivered quickly, and so I kept looking over at her heart rate monitor, and so I wasn't even focusing on what things felt like. I think I just kind of locked down on like, okay, tell me what I need to do to make this happen. The moment, they laid her on my stomach, it was like just a transition. I mean, this internal instinct kind of takes over. This person's changing your life forever, but you don't really have the experiences yet to know like how exactly that's going to look.
Should we change that first?
Probably.
It's kind of this like innocence, as a family, you're like, just like a beginning, maybe. 4 months after giving birth, I'm trying to be on the line at the Olympic trials. I'd say that's pretty ambitious.
Female middle distance running in the US is as good as any country has ever been in the history of the sport. Not only is our team the hardest to make, but the event that Sarah's in is one of the toughest on our team to make.
That's what makes it so compelling. People don't think she can do it. It's a lofty goal. It's not normal, but she's not normal. Her husband's not normal. Her talents aren't normal, so it's a perfect fit.
We just need to be cautious in our approach, and we need to understand where you are, and so that's what today's all about.
For me, this is about getting over my hesitation of like post-baby running and making sure everything stays.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there though. Like, one, where's this all of a sudden lack of confidence coming from? You were running 12 miles 2 weeks ago with a baby in your belly, okay? No matter how physically fit you are, if your mind won't let you go there, if your mind doesn't believe you can accomplish it, you won't. Get into it, nice and easy, just off feel, forget your watch. You seem like you're getting a little bit more smooth. Yeah.
It definitely felt like, wow, I got a long way to go. I could not step on the starting line and feel like I belong.
And the gruelingness of the grind that she's gonna go through, you typically do it over an extended period of time. The unique thing about doing it in these next 16 weeks is we have to do it, but we also have to make sure we don't break her in doing it. 85, good. Very good. Yeah, she's out cold.
You watched my first workout, but you slept through it, huh?
Good. Nice job.
We moved back to my hometown in Virginia to live with my parents because we knew that we would need that support. I know that what we're doing is aggressive. Like, we're trying to do something that's quite a feat.
On top of the sleep deprivation, breastfeeding burns a lot of calories. It's going to be a balance of Sarah being able to sleep, but us needing to take care of the needs of this child.
You definitely do, as an athlete, struggle with those moments of like, why am I doing this? I really just wanted to keep sleeping and say, forget this, I don't know what I'm trying to do. Those moments are the scariest moments because you don't want that side to win out. I just want to prove people wrong that, like, you really can be a mom and continue to work hard towards your own goals.
I do believe that there are people who are counting Sarah out, but they will soon see that they shouldn't.
JJ is definitely a legend in the sport of track and field. I was very fortunate that he got to come down and meet Abigail.
Good. 14 point.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
There's no halfway in this commitment. She's either all in or she's not going to do it. That's how she operates.
There you go. Flat back. Good. Just try and flush out the stride, keep it even. She ended up doing a couple of workouts that I would have called turning point workouts. They were workouts that looked like the Sarah of old. I mean, they were impressive. For her to be at 434, 433 mile shape, 6 weeks postpartum, really happy. Really happy.
I was doing a workout, I would like have kind of this like tight feeling in my back, and it would almost like feel like it knocked kind of the wind out of me.
So come on in here.
When I stopped that workout, that was the first time I used the words like injury with Darren.
How you doing, Sarah?
As her coach, if she has a stress fracture, yeah, I'll feel guilty a bit that, you know, we pushed and we pushed hard. And that's where my coach and husband lines get blurred a little bit, because I don't just feel like I hurt my athlete, I feel like I hurt my wife.
Pounding and stuff on a stress fracture would probably cause further damage. If the pain I'm experiencing is a stress fracture, then I don't know what then the future would look like. You don't want to see it end with something like this. You have this ideal scenario that you're going to be, your body's like superwoman, but it's, you know, like you're not untouchable. I think the worst case scenario would be that I have a stress fracture in my lower back. Like I wouldn't be able to run.
Darren Brown, nice to meet you.
So tell me a little bit about the pain and all. I mean, what's...
I think of pain in terms of can I run or not. So I don't necessarily notice things until it's inhibiting me.
What was uncovered were the two stress fractures in the spine and the vertebrae, and then there's one in your pelvis in the sacrum where the spinal cord kind of fits into the pelvis, and that's on the right, and that's what's probably causing the pain.
Yeah.
Based on the initial MRIs we got back, Sarah has postpartum osteoporosis as a result of being pregnant. Calcium levels, bone density, none of that has ever been an issue for Sarah.
The estimates are that a lot of this is genetics. 3/4 of this is probably genetically predetermined.
All right. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. Great to meet you as well.
It's inspirational what she did, and I just don't want it to come across that she's caused a problem. I don't think that the training has been the cause of it.
The reason I'm not running now is to let my body heal. I mean, I'm obviously still holding on to hope that it's not the end.
She was quickly becoming a favorite to represent the United States in the 1,500 meters at the Rio Olympics. With her husband, Darren, who was also her coach guiding her last spring, Sarah was having the best stretch of her career.
this him?
Hello. I put you on speaker and I have Darren here too.
At L3-4, inside the nerve sac, is a small area of tissue that the radiologist suggested might be something called a meningioma. So when it's inside the spinal cord or the nerve sac itself, I typically would recommend you all see Dr. Mark Shaffrey at UVA, who has a special interest in spinal tumors. And his opinion will probably guide the next step on what to do, and it might include biopsy or removal.
We've got actionable next steps, and so that's the important thing right now. Is always having a next step. The reality is she has a tumor in her spinal column. Worst case scenario, if something like this was cancerous and was growing rapidly and put pressure on the spinal column and the nerves, it can cause permanent damage. It can cause paralysis.
I mean, it just puts a different perspective on life in general, because even with training for the Olympic trials, like the Olympics, you know, even if I became an Olympian, that doesn't bring long-term happiness. Those are moments. And then when you're dealing with the health kind of scare and these issues of the unknown, like, you realize what you really want to be around for. And no matter like what I do in life, like, she's gonna be one of my biggest accomplishments, and I want the joy of watching that accomplishment do great things herself. Yeah, 'cause you will, won't ya? And I like want that privilege to be there for it all. Darren and I planned an altitude trip several months back. We decided, you know what, we paid for the house already. We might as well come up here and enjoy being together as a family and make the most of it.
Just this glorious day, Lord. I want to thank you for the ability to do the things we love, Lord, the ability to spend time as family, Lord, to have friends and family come visit and be a part of our lives, and be a part of our lives, Lord. I thank you for this food that you blessed upon our table, and we pray that you use it to nourish the well-being of our
I had myself prepared for probably every possible scenario. I can only describe it as just a weight being lifted off my shoulders. Like anytime something pops up, you're like, oh, this is the worst case scenario. This is the biggest challenge. And then you get through it. And you move on. The whole thing with me getting ready for the Olympic trials is about time. And time is sometimes not on your side. It's not going to be easy to sit on the sidelines. It never is. But I'll be sitting on the sidelines knowing that I did everything I could to try and get there. And I'm at a place where I really am okay with that. But I'm still going to train. I need to keep seeing this goal through until I know that it's not possible.
Say mama.
That's where having my daughter puts things back into perspective for me. She's gonna have moments too where she falls down. And she's gonna have to pick herself back up and keep going.
Yeah. We've been told that what we're doing is crazy for almost a year now. And the reality is, we were staying as fit as we could throughout a pregnancy. Ready? Here we go. What Sarah's doing now is truly crazy. It's inspiring.
All the way through.
But crazy.
Good.
I'm running at the Olympic trials. Finally.
Sarah definitely still has a stress fracture in her sacrum. She will be competing on broken bones. The doctor gave us reassurance that while nothing's guaranteed, as long as she stays pain-free, we know we're progressing.
I know that for me, I just have to see it through. This is the hand I was dealt. This is what I'm playing with, and I'm taking it.
This will be the first time, and probably the only chance, that Sarah will have to race this year. And it just so happens that it's going to be on the biggest domestic stage we have in front of 30,000 people at the Olympic trials.
They're building like outside.
Hi there.
Your behavior, you're listening to me. Let's start walking again. Same thing, like immediately. And then she started to vomit and gag because it was like choking.
The girls I'm competing against have been, going through the whole process, the fall training, the winter training towards the trials. I mean, so I'm definitely not at an advantage when it comes to what I went through this year. There's an element of uncertainty that can kind of put you on edge. But I can play out the worst case scenario. In running, when you are just really behind the pack and you're bringing up the caboose, but you're not even connected to the other girls, we call that going out the back door. And that would be my worst case scenario.
Good, too.
But you're never going to know unless you put yourself in it. So all I'm doing right now is putting myself in it. I'm giving myself a shot.
So basically today is the first of 3 rounds, and she has to finish top 6 in her heat to make it on. I'm okay with you going to the back. All right? I don't want you to think that I think you need to get super aggressive in the first round. just don't be stuck when the kick happens. One last thing, most important, kick ass. If Sarah goes out and competes poorly, she will feel like she's let her supporters down, and I hate that. I'm sure somewhere in the back of her mind, she's thinking about the people who told her she couldn't do it.
Tennessee from the USA Championships in 2014, running for New Balance, Sarah Brown. Ranking 8th.
The women's 1500, 3 3/4 laps around the track.
When the gun went off, she immediately went to the middle of the pack, and she put herself in a position to compete.
2 laps to go as the rain continues to fall here in Eugene.
With 450, 500 meters to go, I noticed her stride falter to one side, and I knew something was wrong. From that moment on, I prayed that it wasn't her back, it wasn't her hip, it wasn't something severe.
You heard the bell, the final lap.
Her being an isolated athlete, lagging behind the pack, in noticeable pain, is a hard thing to watch.
Sarah Brown too really struggling towards the back of the field as well. Remember the first 6 going through by right. It is pretty soft qualifying.
See the replay of the ball on the scoreboard as we go to the
I wanted nothing more than to be out on the track and be next to her in that moment. She's watching everything she's worked for slip right out of her hands. When the race finished, my only concern was to get out of those stands and get across that stadium and bring Abigail to Sarah.
The last 500, my Achilles just locked, and so your whole ankle kind of locks. And I mean, ultimately, like I'm disappointed in my finish, but I'm not disappointed because I actually I know what every step took, and none of those steps were easy. If you have a dream, see it through, no matter what the obstacles are. Is there a way I can just go see them for a second and then come back?
Mama did good. That's great. I know that was hard.
I don't know if you can tell.
think that having Abigail has changed my approach to running. Like I have this more fearless attitude. I can walk off the track in the moments when track can be very disappointing and into the arms of my family.